Yarat Shikeros and Arahada Kisigi Hodoya Denabananta Dr. Boo Nygren. Aita Thursday, August 22nd, 1 o'clock, 5:30. Haroshin Hataso Kizigi. Yat Ein Kedini de Hodoya. Sebaran Hot Zando, Hanen Kitchena Nashle, Hodoy Dr. Boo Nygren, and Adne, Hojo Nahui Jisho, Etaho Netigido, Na Nishta, Peta in Nishigido, Nantinda. Orat Enigi, Ehotom Ben Kilnashnegi, Yobenish, Tilhoja Nahajasom, a Pinda Nadish Nahadan Juno, Sar Kate Nash Nesto had Olam, the Nebuchadnezzar Honado, Nilhuin John Juno, Shakan, that Jahido at and a Shadale, Nishigi, at and Hanesh Hodel on Juno, Kane Nade Neslo, Hot O, Nivich Hane and Dale Hingim, Pasha Hojo, Horoshin Haudojish, upcoming holidays or appreciation days. August 25th is National Park Service Founders Day. On this day, 1916, President Woodrow Wilson signed the Organic Act to establish the National Park Service. As part of the interior, the National Park Service protects 400 parks and monuments in 50 states, U.S. territories, and Washington, D.C., including the beautiful Canyon de Chelly, and that totals 84 million acres. National Park Service Founders Day acknowledges the conservation and preservation efforts of the National Park System. Washington, National Park Service. Kaya did aro bandat and given that no is to hajo ba haliar no e kaya beke test ingim eshin hore this change in that ada jaga si ya ta hot e to ta hojon yes eshin hot on no ba heta nitzen ye da hotes anne e behani. August 25th. Local announcements. Missing Navajo people reports from the Navajo Police Department this week. From Crown Point Police District, 33-year-old Myron Carl Peters was last seen Friday, August 9th in Standing Rock, New Mexico. He's 5'7", 200 pounds with brown eyes and black hair. He was last seen wearing a brown jacket and cap. If you have any information, call Crown Point Police Department 505-786-2050. From Delcon Police District, 51-year-old Justin Jensen was last seen Wednesday, July 25th in Sanders, Arizona. He's 5'4", 155 pounds, brown eyes, brown hair. He was last seen wearing jeans and a t-shirt. If you have any information, call Delcon Police Department 928-657-8975. Eshihodo Myron Carl Peterson do Justin Jensen dal sauda haden na ran kesbada hausen she the Nebo Washington besalau besas anigibich da hotosne Aldo Nyla Beling Chi has been located and she is safe. Shay Freddie Caballero has been been located and he is safe. Dishina Kim Nikedenet and Lodge had a button Taban the Hostene, Beninachet, Kispa da Hojo, Aroshita, Soegi, Sohadolis. A message from the Division for Children and Family Services. As summer heat continues, staying hydrated is essential. Water sustains and nourishes us, preventing dehydration, which can cause fatigue, dizziness, and heat stroke. Carry a water bottle with you and your vehicle. Encourage regular water intake. Check on vulnerable individuals. Together we stay strong and healthy. Water is life. Together we thrive. KCAZ Frequently asked questions of the week. With the recent rainstorms, many families have asked how they get their roads graded. Families can contact the Navajo Department of Transportation of Roads at 505-371-8300. Fill out a work order at navajo.org. NDOT can determine if a roadway is private road, a BIA route, a county road, or a state route or a federal road. You can reach out to the chapter or county in your area or the BIA regional office to see if they have any additional resources for assistance. Washington the beda det egido adda khabi hada sha ho yanda aita adda tin beta inishda wa khado wasigi ishi e hoto nta hosne ho ishi yat etolet Navajo Department of Transportation a ado hone nanigi a life lesson. Elders are the keepers of our wisdom, the holders of our stories, tradition, and knowledge passed down through time. Tishi hodon kas tweedon kazania si nastas lenigi bin tin da holonigi da si tadnil zendo job yat da etil kidon antinda hode legi tadnil zeno e hoto jo nasko jo kasale no shi e hodo hanen ana de liaro shi masanedo chedo anale da no senigi nikishia yesen kespada hozen nikijda nit isem dida lada khit ola bansen kesto khit ola atol nisto di washjina hui nado di si to josha anneta hui no da nit so dan masanadon ke cheyo but I see nit li he hoto nikhe nit le masanado che dan no senigi da nil zendole adon nikhen da lenigin anni hanot anigido ayon nin de khege ishi hot o ke chedon ke masan bi ke da nit indo ban na da nit khato da idil ke do e yat etole she hodo be hanaste nikhe masanadon ke chedo ke nal hon da holonda mado hajad da holonda da bedos ke di khit o jenito adnek achda shiyan Beninachi, ne so kedo seniors arena da no seligi, the nebazar baby chiana nashkedo let Huinzinoda, Eshin hot on Pahoda no sendolet, or Yadolet, Ado, Astuido Sani, Hada Okisigi, Auduhune Nanigi. A few of the week's accomplishments. The Navajo Police Department has created a civilian police investigators. These positions will assist patrol officers with administrative functions at the district office and in the field. This will let commissioned police officers concentrate on calls for services to assist the public. 18 positions were advertised with 12 applicants selected this week. Background reviews are underway with onboarding within the next 3 months. Men and women who are considering entering the Division of Public Safety can use this training to see the overall functions of various departments within the law enforcement. E ajbena nista holloro li aro khoji ayo alti so da nahot edona edikidona al khawda nal sosta thada da jahigi e ajbena nista holloro ebini nache khodo se biza tashin da desh nisho e digi salao allan nahallon khadel nista asi khada hot into net khoda badal inda cheda ne khadan thado le khada hot inda e ay yisbena nista holloro le khuin zoshi e ajsalao bena nista holloro aro hoje anni bananish banadal dot atigi nal sos do khaneda do the nedaichi yadalt kido eshin hoto bananish da hollon le huinzo bankil da hojo a huichin are the nebeke bakad tad shahda khahosh sallahu allah do le noda asi nahot ige do lai yesitne sallahu de shleta noda in yen nadal sosta ebenina dit o lahot enigi nanish khadanil chad na hallo eshi yedel nish ebedina sallahu allah te bananish etayos sendo le huinzo eshi hoto ba hoda no sendo asi bash hojo de ne hojo da de nisho hoto sallahu bananish dan tazem ayo ba solo da dil nil hoto le yese khada hot yeke dat idole Arohon Enargi I signed a contract with Clausen Excavating to complete road improvements on N8096 in Chinle. The contractor will recondition the road for a mile in Chinle chapter. 670 tons of aggregate base will be placed on the route and new signage will be installed. Clausen Excavating is the women-owned construction firm. The N8906 route services approximately 100 families. The road often gets flooded from monsoons or runoff from the canyon. The upgrades to the roads are some of the latest infrastructure projects in the Chinle area. This year, hojon atlan KTNN lo na nishi yol hoton le tinda chedad inigim na sos be la satlin do di Chinle ge tin beje na hot ig atlat since thanazem al chedol ni benya hot obje holya ish are keda hanot inigi in 8906 tin beka keda hanot inigi stashim nezatin do ahwa de keda inigi asho ayat tin bandol ni inigi horoba hanast de nebeke beka tin dos nil do job ke destim khayu peso te ebni nach hui chat del nishigin da bildish halet ola laon peso del enigi de hoda del nil donle de nebo Washington do peso on das sozigi khaish ben yet on das soz hajoya de ne de ke da hat enigi atin yis beje na hot igi ben nach ishe benina peso ba biche ba da ni chindo le noya hotosate beswa has ando shida shitlas anigi elkeln da huil ne hoda bansite kesto hahodashin le kushin de zlono sa da dot sin honela do thousands do later kushin million honela de nem between bastet do nilto ge destino ebinye ndasil so do nilasi skito le. The office of the Navajo Tax Commission collected 3.7 million in tax revenue August 14 to 20th 2024. In Altran asa the most legion start $4 million yan ani de dishe de nebeke baka in Altran yan hani thot in ha khato de kuigo in Altran giving in the nebo Washington yan nahin degi honela yan ani de to de kuigo shi de nan niste yos yergi eso in Altran na de tle hoto jono de han ni so special nahan nesem nanagi major projects I'm working on. We appointed 2 commissioners to the Nomination Telecommunication Regulatory Commission that needs to be confirmed by the Navajo Committee and to start their 4-year term. I want to welcome and thank Dara Blackwater and Brent Nelson to the commission. I know that once confirmed by the Navajo will help with our Telecommunications Regulatory Commission efforts. Dara specializes in Indian law telecommunications policy from the University of Arizona. She worked on tribal issues in Washington and assisted in the development of community broadband networks in indigenous communities. Brett assisted to secure fiber optic infrastructure from the FCC's E-rate program across all 110 chapters. Hodishit na kigon KTNN lo ostado na neste KTRADEJ ajo bike hodini donle beshwasan na bikiyat kshebich hodol niso yilanda aslio hoje Telecommunications Regulatory Commission that's a kedole eshi wa nelch be kelchi yadel tkegim petzilo dobike dest ingido nalsosta not hagido bike nda anneshigi eshi hoton khaike des idol khoinzo ina ken kedene aj bike hodini gi ba shlojo anoshin to khedeit ogoshi na bikiyat ke bich hodol nilto be la dotle aro dina khageshi hoton khana arole. Navajo EPA Director Stephen City met with the U.S. Department of Energy Office of Nuclear Energy and DISA to update U.S. DOE. Director City provided information on high-pressure slurry ablation or HPSA technology that can be used on the Navajo Nation to clean up the hundreds of abandoned uranium mine sites. EPA large shanad neshigi le Washington do lanja betahol negi USDOE aje betna anisha khit ola de nebeke bakawa let so hata haske do betna has anigi do has edas negi khit ola bahelenigi do hajon leg hodishchi de tsin so bena anishigi dadinil in so hot o elkesen del nesto sato kan del do sato beso da benya na so sanda dil so so di anidigi be na so hodal enigi beta nitra noya yenda a jodi let so betna has anigi edol nil do kayata jos edol nila yo ilot millions of dollars hat nilim honela hot end le Washington trajdaga honela da person ke hodol nil no asim na hund out hot end ahol to hot the directorate city yan sik KCAZ shashi khait ola sahot ora jum kaya edol nil do di let so hont ate da honlangi helit ola na chodol niligi yena au yo babenesh le don junon khaho as out of the Gallup water supply project updates. The San Juan lateral is 60% complete. The project is 300 miles of water pipeline, 19 pumping stations, 2 water treatment plants. The San Juan lateral runs from the Nahanizad to Shiprock along US 491 to Yatehe. On Tuesday, the Bureau of Reclamation gave updates on the project to deliver water to 250,000 Navajos by 2029. The project will serve 43 chapters in New Mexico, provide connection to Arizona chapters like St. Michael's and Fort Defiance. Dishe Toton le na George Kasos Rosada ta Inisha ha Achago Toitsegi Snido Doba Yego Kana Sonsne Eshim Kashla that's in Nana Hagonjono Sonliaga Hayu son 250,000 Honela the net Hobich Hotados Nesa Biga Tole Eya Toshiba Hodano Sendolet Atibeta Inish. The Division of Personnel Management is designing an online application portal for job vacancies. DPM is changing its job vacancy advertisement, upgrading its database to better interact with new processes. This process will applicants submit one application for multiple positions within the job vacancy portal. This will be one step forward to fully implementing my executive order to ensure quick hiring and efficiencies in filling vacancies. Meet and greets. I attended the 38th annual Central Navajo Fair in Chinle, which aligns with my commitment to ensure that our people have access to essential services like running water, electricity, and improved roads. Thank you to Oni Yazi from Rough Rock and Dolly Dick from Del Muerto for coming out to support. And there's so many of you that we shook hands and said hello to each other along the parade route. It was good to see you all. Thousands of our family came out to support the parade, hundreds of businesses. It was inspiring to see so many people in attendance. Chin lead Kintahadi Nehada Dahil Sanagido Yat Eta Hidi Nidigi the Kui Goshim Yat Eta Hidi Nido Patience and Dahosne Adamona Otle Hana Askise Ntanil Samtit o Nkedoshnik Shisharat Eta Noda Eskis Dahosis Negi it a Kahadolist on Junoshi Hawada Nada Hiso Credo Beninachadan Khan Nada Iste Don Halchinda Betahosaha Junoshi Yan Dasa Do Ashi Hawada Oda and Khan Dash Nishoda Eshibe a Kahadolist Central Navajo Nation Fair at the Osagi to Asiego Nan Nation Skagi at Esto Fair as Neho. Auto upcoming events this week in Rama is Navajo Fair, team roping at Pine Hill Rodeo Grounds. Open at 6 p.m. and roping will begin at 7 p.m. Entries are $40 a draw or $40 a man. Tomorrow they will have Friday Night Bull Bash at 6 p.m. They will have only woolly riding, steer riding, lady steer riding, junior bull riding, and novice bull riding, and open bull riding. Entries vary from $30 to $70. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday will have goat roping at $3 a draw and $5 pick partner. Out of Saturday will be the parade and open rodeo. Ishi aja Rema the nekeda that inigim jono shina hohe ndaso anigido the mo yajago nekin khati negi the shin jono do le ehot ohim do la aho yanda da hidil sel to ishim bashil khojoro le khe do le do ajishin nidi behasi na hohe do kin hati ne bena nisho na nishin tragi dem ishin jono kha to nis Rema Navajos ada kedon that inigim. So I returned from Chicago ledam ada nansta kais kaya ada na shao the kui goshin John Nes da he kaigi la hazli do not ani large bit house negi do keta hastagi do the kui goshin at in the command hastan bad hadel zenigi bin inache ada kitnda wil net bin ya ada na shanigi asim dikat Washington de na ke nal sauce the kui goshin nal sauce and das sauce tro banat en hos do ha zoje do yo troje ha zoje tro de nebedet egi do peso bahelenigi ado sto le so the nebet is the bandat enigi na het Zigida, Ada, Bakato, Washat Nenegi, post 1971, da Nenegido, the Nebetzish, at the Nithigi, Jobke, Dest, Nenegi Arosto, the Quigo Shella, Behes Ani, Dan Tato, Astot Skin, so that Todelt, Eto, Best Cheat, Eto, Sateto, the Nebo Washington, Behes Ani, Nant, Sate Washington, Nigi Behes Ani, Nant, Agobinati, Hotetkehi, Jo Pound, Kaya Peshato, Zoton, Le, Best Cheat, that Lot, Eto, Ehot, in a hit nothing, Ehot, do, Kenazi, Lit, that Nosin, Nenegi, Stop, Ehot, the Quigo, Ye, how one a day, how one do, see, the Nebo Washington, but President, Secretaries, and Lenegida, but Nantani, Bandaz, Nishgi, Hoto, but you had I met with 29 members of Congress. One Ajin has Tanige Lodge, John Nez, Yasazinigi, Hakeem Jeffries, the auto former Speaker Nancy Pelosi, the auto senators. I met with 11 senators, including Cory Booker, Senator Tim Kaine, Senator Brian Schatz, Mark Kelly, the Quigoshim. See, a day one Aja, but the Hosnegi, the Judy Hodo, by Yanashke, Le Washington, at the Qui at the Haljim Jahasdots, and Asibich in the Huntla. And stash Latin, Honne Lavaja Hasti, a start of Iob Aban, Nassus Case, a Chinias and Slineda, Shana in Niton, the Stina Lob, and the Sneer Hoto, added at Hanashandem, the Washana in Nigi, based on Kitchen Hoda Doslith, Doslith Sota, Hajon Kacheda Doslito, the Nelabits, Bahayanigi, Hot Enigida, Ishana Hani Hoda Rayoba, Chitin Slasim, the Nebathon Junior Hot Ended Not Ani, Auto Secretary of Interior, Deb Holland, Secretary of Energy, Jennifer Granholm, Secretary of Labor, Julie Suda, also Minnesota Lieutenant Governor, Peggy Flanagan, Alanja in Yale, Watigi Kamala Harris, Baketa Nez, Tim Waltz, Aja Governor, Hot End, Bada, Laniteo, the son, Lenigi Peggy Flanagan, Governor in Lena List, Minnesota, Edoha Net, the Nest, Son of Betsin Lenigi, Doha and Governor Lit, and of a state, Ishin Bahutza, Asim, Bankisa Hojondo List, Ishin Hoto Art and the Qui Ushinat Ani than Lenigi, Kais Ka Siego, but sitting the house snap, Gadi, the Nebo Washington, I don't put it now, Igida Bana, the Horoshi, I added all this, Horoya, the Nebananta, Dr. Boo Nygren, Hojip Thursday, 1 o'clock, 5:30, Hada Okisigi, a Shahan Kedini, the Letaro, not. And the yen Castalon, Jono, Nasco Nade, no Cato, the Tohaidish, to Hodat Edo, Etahosato, Haiden, to Hajon Hata Negish, Rulo, so there's in the Hede, Nito Leshibe, Getayada, Hot Eto, Anit, and Yat Eo, Nasco Nade, Ni Cato, Ebe, Hakone, Aro next Thursday, Shinado Dolis.
Yat A, Arnold So, She, Roy Tracy, and Shedo. Tot ik originele troepen was dus zien voor naar de eerste is zien national. The education evaluation is the Navajo Nation Board of Education appointed me back in February 2024 this past year, and I've been serving as the acting superintendent of schools for the education. I come before you today to give you some updates on the events surrounding Navajo education, and just give you a brief history and give you some direction of where the program is going today. KNDN Education is charged under Title 10, the sole preservation of Navajo language and culture. That's Title 10. Behind that is the continuous improvement of school systems. And that includes grant schools, tribally controlled schools, and Bureau-operated schools, Bureau-funded schools. KNDN Education has had a long history of issues in who actually governs education. So the Navajo Nation created the Navajo Nation Sovereignty Education Act 2005. Prior to that, education was a focal point for Navajo Nation government to improve the systemic services that the Bureau of Indian Education, at the time, prior to 2005, was Bureau of Indian, BIA, Bureau of Indian Education, and so Bureau of Indian Affairs, I should say. And then eventually they've become their own entity, making another branch under Bureau of Indian Education. And so DOTI, Department of Indian Education, has gone through that historical change too. changing names and such. And so today we try to promulgate or effectuate and help the 2005 amendments take place. And that really is focused upon Navajo education becoming a self-sustained entity that's representative of Navajo education. We incorporate the Navajo philosophy of education. We also incorporate, we deal with Western empirical methodologies of what student success is. And so, the federal government has a history of, any school system in the United States that takes federal funding has to report federal measures, okay? And those 5 federal measures are, the first one is always talking about enrollment, okay? From enrollment, you then figure out your participation rate. And from that, you have proficiency rate. And then you have to report attendance, and then you have to report graduation. And that is one of the bigger issues that most schools deal with across the country, including the Bureau of Indian Education, BIE operated and BIE funded schools. And so Navajo education has had a process in which we have been researching and developing programs that will support a state-like agency development. Most people don't know that in education, the Navajo Nation can be literally deemed the 51st state that has had their own state accountability plan. That has been recognized by the Department of Education. That means all Title I, Part A funds can be worked with within the Department of Education. Now, systemically, a lot of these education programs fall under the U.S. Department of Education. And with that, they work in conjunction with the Department of Interior, the Bureau of Indian Education. And so there's been provisions going back to the article of the 1868, Treaty of 1868, Navajo Senate. And in there it's Article 6, and that's compulsory education. And so in many references for education and improving the systems, we always refer back to the treaty. The federal government has a responsibility, and that's something that we really effectuate. We try to promulgate that and telling, the United States Department of Education, Congress and such, that Navajo education is underfunded. And so from that context, historical context, Navajo education has had a process to develop and reorganize. We've addressed many issues, including developing our own accountability plan. In this sense, we've had issues that we're trying to deal with. Today we're dealing with high school graduates that have a 7th grade math level and a 5th to 6th grade reading level. And that's what's happening in our education system. There is something happening that needs to change. I think nationally we have school systems within the U.S. Public education system. We have students graduating with the 10th and an 11th grade reading level, maybe a 12th grade math level, okay? But for some reason on Navajo, in the area schools within the Navajo Nation and bordering towns, those are some of the challenges. We also deal with truancy issues, attendance issues, truancy issues. And so through these processes, then education has a responsibility to try to mitigate that and make suggestions. And those suggestions include amending Public Law 95-561, Indian Self-Determination Act of 78, which is 638. We also have 10297 schools, and so which is charter schools and grant schools, contract schools. And so within the Navajo Nation system, there are 66 schools that belong to and operate within the Navajo Nation, and it's co-governance with the Bureau of Indian Education. Of those 66, about 20, let's say about maybe 29 schools are tribally controlled schools. The remainder, 32 or so, are Bureau-operated schools, meaning that they fall under the jurisdiction of the Bureau of Indian Education. So DOTI has the responsibility to oversee the tribally controlled schools, to work with certain organizations and such. And so in our challenges today, we want to improve the student proficiency gap. And statistically, those are things that we have to look at research, we have to look at statistics. And these, have created partnerships with BIE and state agencies that we can have data sharing agreements and such. And so what we want to do is, from the Board of Education, Navajo Nation Board of Education, on behalf of the President of the Navajo Nation, Dr. President Nygren, and the 25th Navajo Nation Council, these are some top priority issues that we have to face. And today we have, we just had a Navajo Education Forum yesterday, and we're going to have another in probably the end of September. And I'm inviting all the public, especially parents. We want to hear from parents. We want to hear from school administrators. We want to hear from school staff. Yesterday's hearing, we heard from school board members. And so there are a lot of issues that need to be addressed. And part of that is like, we talk about local control. There's a confusion between local control and local governance. Local control is really about board members coming from the community that represent the students that they govern within the school system. And I think today, I believe Navajo education has to redefine what local control is. And it's not local governance, okay? Health, Education, Human Services Committee, Budget and Finance Committee of the 25th Navajo Nation Council, they're charged with local governance, right? And so are chapter houses and that organizational structure. And so through this process, I'm here to just share some brief updates with Navajo education. There are some key issues such as facilities that need to be addressed by the communities. Head Start, for example, we're trying to hold chapters accountable that they provide facilities for Head Start classrooms, okay? That's part of the agreement in receiving the $22.3 million funding from Office of Head Start. We want to look at professional support. There's a triangulation of accountability. The first one is about accountability. All schools have accountability for funding, student performance, and such. The second one is school improvement. There has to be a continuous cycle of school improvement. And then the next one is professional support, professional development. You have to have certified teachers, certified administrators. You have to have certain requirements. And so that cycle creates a holistic learning environment for students. And so we try to advocate for this. There are issues such as school safety. We're looking at funding streams from the federal government. We want to, entertain forward funding ideas with ICEP. We want to look at impact aid. We want to look at JOM. We also want to look at education reform. There has to be, this issue has to come up with the public. Are we going to continue to just be satisfied with the rigor that's not very challenging for Navajo students? Shouldn't we raise that rigor and make it more challenging for Navajo students to graduate? At the education, we believe so. And so, there's also a culture of traditional versus contemporary viewpoints. I would like to challenge all young Navajo parents, Navajo individuals, to run for school boards, to advocate for Navajo education, whether it's a tribal level, state level, or federal level. Those are some key issues we have to really look at. And so hopefully this gives you an idea about what Dene education is working to. One day, historically, we'd like to oversee the governance of all school systems. And that promulgates, the Indian Self-Determination Act. Article 14 of Navajo Nation of the United Nations Declaration of Indigenous Rights. Article 14 gives that right to tribal organizations, tribal governance, and tribal education departments to advocate and build appropriate, culturally relevant, culturally appropriate learning environments. That includes pedagogy, development. Instead of learning about English only and things like that, we should have instruction in Navajo, for example. And so Dene language and culture is protected by Title 10. And so to increase this whole dynamic of accountability and student performance, those are the key issues that we need to be focused on. Sometimes I feel in our Navajo education system, we tend to focus on school board issues and those type of areas. But when we look at the funding stream, we look at the accountability, those are some real serious issues. And we've seen the articles that come out in the news media about misappropriated fundings and such. There has to be accountability. And so DOTI plays that compliance and monitoring accountability for the Navajo Nation government, because these tribally controlled schools get direct funding from Bureau, federal funding through the Bureau of Indian Education, and it goes straight to the schools. But who's monitoring the schools, right? And so then education has a charge through the Board of Education, who reports to the Health, Education, and Human Services Committee. And so we try to mitigate that, and we try to make sure that accountability is also measured, not just through student academic performance, but also including school finances and such. And so I hope this helps you, the public, understand our role. And I enjoy this chance to share this information with you. I will be back. I'll share more statistics. I'll share current issues that we're addressing, and we need you, the public, to help us. On behalf of Dr. Boo Nygren and his administration, the 25th Navajo Nation Council, Speaker Crystalline Curley, and the Navajo Nation Board of Education. I appreciate every one of you being here, and let's change Navajo education. We have to change Navajo education. We got to get away from the 60s, 70s, 80s mentality. And so we need to define what Navajo education is going to look like in the new millennium for our students 50, 60, 80 years from now. Yeah, I'll know so.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Yate. This is Sean McCabe, the controller here in Window Rock, Arizona. Again, Yate. Shiye Sean McCabe Binishe, Ashi Inishle, Do Touchini Bashis Chin. And I'm happy to be here to give the Navajo Nation people an update on a couple things that I think are very relevant to what's going on now. I'd like to start, first just thanking all of you and for being with us and bearing through some of the issues that I know we're going through with ARPA and 521s and all this stuff. Thank you to Navajo Nation President Boo Nygren, Vice President Rochelle Montoya, and the 25th Navajo Nation Council for leading us through some of these transitions. But I'd like to start with where we're going on these much heard about monies for the chapter delegate region plans, the delegate region chapter plans by the delegates. As you recall, they're back during ARPA, the 24th Navajo Nation Council allocated roughly $8.8 million per delegate under the ARPA funding to achieve regional plans by each delegate for the chapters that they represent. Since that time, we worked with the United States Treasury, the Department of Justice, the Council, the President, to identify what the Treasury refers to as the revenue replacement allocation. What that does is it allows tribes, states, local governments to calculate an amount of money based on a formula provided by the Treasury that shows the amount of revenue that, or decreases in revenue that occurred during the pandemic. Per the United States Treasury, the pandemic time frame is defined as March 2021 through the present. And in doing so, we gathered all of the revenue information from each enterprise, all of the general fund revenue for the Navajo Nation. Federal funds were not allowed to be used in the calculation, so those were excluded. And over the course of time, since March 2021, we identified that the Navajo Nation over the past roughly 3 years and 4 months have lost roughly $521 million due to the negative effects of the pandemic on our economy. So that number we were able to run through the Treasury. We had several meetings with them, basically just making sure we were doing the right thing. We ran the numbers through our attorneys, through DOJ, through our outside attorneys, and also through our auditor, KPMG, and we finalized the 521 number. Some of you may have heard about it. And what happens is that money now gets moved over to the general fund, because what the Treasury allows us to do is reimburse the general fund for government service costs that the general fund paid for during that time when revenue had fallen. So that $521 million now goes back to reimburse our general services costs back to March 2021, which essentially opens that money up to the general fund free of ARPA restrictions and deadlines, etc. Recently, the council in June and the president signed on June 17th CMY 2824, which establishes the 521 fund and moves what was ARPA funded delegate region plans to this new 521 fund under the general fund. The benefits of that were to move the funds over to the general fund and eliminate ARPA restrictions, ARPA deadlines, and basically give flexibility to the delegates to spend that money without ARPA eligibility requirements and ARPA deadlines. The funds have been determined to move over from the external fund accounts, which we refer to as K accounts, to the general fund N or C accounts, not N being non-capital, C being capital, in the manner that they were originally budgeted for. So they're moving over the exact same way that all of you chapters have been planning for all along. Nothing has changed on that end yet. There was a question, we've been questioned a lot recently by the Navajo committee, and yet most recently yesterday at the Budget and Finance Committee, where are we in this process? So I'm happy today to tell you that the Office of the Controller has collaborated with the Division of Community Development, the Navajo Nation Fiscal Recovery Fund Office, and the Office of Management and Budget, giving guidance on how those accounts should move over. The initial plan was basically just to replace an old K account, which is an external or ARPA funded account, with a C account or an N account. That has all been completed, but OMB is currently in the process of setting up those C and N accounts. And what was reported to the B&F committee by the Office of Management and Budget is we should have that done and monies open for these chapter plans most likely by the end of next week, if not sooner. So we will be making an announcement from the Office of the Controller to the chapters to provide you with the information that that money is now eligible and open for contracting and encumbrances and expenditure out of the general fund. And we hope to have that out here within the next 10 days or so. And this will allow the immediate expenditure of these funds for those region plans. There has been some miscommunication, I think, to the chapters. I'm here to clarify that those monies do not have deadlines as of yet. That any ARPA deadline that was on them is now no longer. Any ARPA eligibility requirement is now no longer. And so I have suggested to the council and we'll be working with the council to maybe even provide flexibility so that those dollars can maybe reallocated to other projects that are now that they're general fund money. But that has yet to be done yet. Currently, they're just moved over the way they were for simplicity. So that's a big update. Also, I will be working, the Office of Controller will be working with Division of Community Development and the Office of Managing Budget to put out guidelines that we can give to each chapter as to what happened, what the process is. But the goal is to just make it as simple as we possibly can to not hold up any projects by the chapters. So I hope that provides a little bit of quick clarification. Please tune in to the Navajo committees and the Budget and Finance committees where we do give updates on this. In addition, the last thing, I have a few more seconds here. The new accounting system that I've been reporting on over the past few times that I've reported is in the works. We're in the contracting phases now, and the Office of the Controller has been tasked with revamping the policies and procedures along with this new modern system to really speed up the processes. I know there's a lot of complaints, rightfully so, about how slow it takes to get our Navajo Nation resources out to the people that need it. So we're happy to say that that's currently moving, and I will be presenting to the Navajo Nation Council revisions to the policies and procedures shortly as well. So with that, I just want to say thank you, Shakia Doshidane, and God bless all of you. Thank you for the time.